Are you a basketball player that finds yourself unsure sometimes on how to play great help defense? Playing great help defense helps you stand out to coaches, and it makes it really difficult to take you out of the game. But playing help defense can get confusing sometimes. Have you ever been taken out of the game because you were there to help a teammate, but you lost focus on the player you were guarding and got backdoored? Or maybe you were so focused on the player that you were guarding that a drive went right by and you weren't there for help. Like I said, it can get confusing. So today, I'm going to cover 3 things that you can do to make it much easier for you to be confident in your help defense. Let's jump in and discuss. Welcome back to Hard Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help basketball players become the smart, confident players that coaches love. So we're talking about defense again this week. As you know, I love talking about defense. And coaches love help defenders. A help defender is, part of the recipe for most of your defenses out there, and being a great help defender is going to really make your coach love you. So that's what we want to cover today, and I'm going to give you 3 specific things that you can do to kind of take some of the confusion out of being a help defender and some of those situations where you're not quite sure, what your responsibility is as a help defender. So we're going to cover those 3 things. As I do, remember, a smart player will always follow what their coach wants them to do. So, if anything I'm saying today is in direct conflict with what your coach is telling you on the defensive end of the court, if they want you because of a defensive philosophy or a defense they're putting in or a defense that's specific in that time of the game, if they give you different instructions, follow your coach. Because if you're smart, follow your job as a basketball player is to implement your coach's strategy, right? Because what do they give you? They give you playing time. So it would be not very smart to argue with your coach about the correct way to play help defense. There's a lot of different ways to play defense, and I'm giving you 3 things that are kind of a general rule of thumb that are going to make it easier for you most of the time. But again, there's specific instances that your coach might want you doing things differently. So listen to your coach. Now, if you want to be one of those smart, confident players that coaches love, I also recommend download the free gift I've got available for you today. It's a checklist of 8 intangible skills that are really going to make you stand out to your coach. And so I make that available in a checklist form. It also gives you some ways to work on these skills, but you can simply scan the QR code below. I'll put the link in the description below here. Or if you're on the podcast, just simply go to hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. Again, it's hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. And I make that gift available to you just for joining me today. So what are these 3 things that we're going to talk about that are going to make you a better help defender? Well, let's just talk about your responsibility as a help defender first. As a help defender, as I said, it can get kind of confusing because, well, coach, I was guarding the player I was guarding, or the player I was guarding got loose because I was helping, right? So you've got these multiple responsibilities to juggle as a help defender, and so you want to really balance those 2 things. You want to be able to engage yourself as a help defender while not freeing the player that you are guarding. And that's your primary responsibility. Your primary responsibility is to guard the player that you are guarding. So what is the first kind of rule that we could implement that'll make it easier for you to be a help defender? That is, 1, just let your positioning be your help. We've talked a little bit about this in the past because we've given some guidelines as to be a better help defender in the past, and we've talked about being in a stance and being visibly wide and in the way. But that's really the first tip: is let your positioning be the help. You want your teammates are guarding the ball, for instance. You want that ball handler to look and go, I don't want to go in there. There's somebody there. That's heading into trouble. I don't want to drive down that lane. Look, help's already there, right? So you've got to be in a position to where, yes, you are guarding the player you're guarding, and that's your primary responsibility, but you have to be a deterrent to the primary ball handler wanting to make a drive or wanting to come your way. And you can do that with your positioning. One of the easiest ways to start adjusting your position and to learn on how to be in better position is to look at film of you playing defense, right? When you're not guarding the ball, what's your positioning like? Are you kind of stuck to the player you're guarding? Which might be something your coach wants you to do if you're in full denial defense or if you're chasing through screens and things of that nature. But if you're in help and you're responsible for both the player you're guarding and being in help position, what is your positioning? Are you a deterrent to the ball? Are you a deterrent to a drive coming in the lane? Are you a deterrent to a move that's going to come your direction? So study your positioning, and you've got to kind of be in a position to where you're that deterrent, but you can also recover and guard the player that you're guarding. So that's the number one rule that we're covering today, is let your positioning be your help so you don't have to sell out, totally lose your man, and go in there and become full-fledged, I'm guarding the ball now. I've switched, I'm help, or whatever the case might be. Let your positioning do that job early for you. The second rule is don't free up the player you're guarding while you're helping. And what do I mean by that? You've always got to be in line or below the player you're guarding. That way you won't lose track of them. You won't lose track of them with your vision, okay? And what do I mean by that? If the player you're guarding moves down the line towards the basket, you need to at least maintain that level with them. You need to move down the line as well. If they move up, you can move up. But you need to at least be even with them at all times, okay? And so when it comes to help, let's say that you're even with the player that you're guarding, and all of a sudden you see a drive coming your way, and you're going to need to help on that drive. You never want to help up the line. You never want to go towards that ball handler, because what happens? The player that you're guarding gets behind you. Now you're backdoored, and if the player that you're going to help on is a great playmaker, they're going to see that. They've got an easy pass to a player that's now behind you. You've lost track of the player you're guarding. So never help up the line. Help across. Okay? So if you're even or below the player that you're guarding and you see that you need to be help, don't help up the line towards them. Help across. And then you're in position to be help. And you're still maintaining the responsibility of guarding the player that you're guarding. So that's the second rule. Never help up the line, help across so that you can maintain vision and maintain contact with the player that you're guarding. What's the third? The third is a little bit of a footwork trip that makes it easier for you to recover after you've helped. And that is, try and be in a slight closed stance to the ball handler when you're in help. And if you're in a closed stance, now you can make an adjustment. You can move into a help position, okay? But if they kick it out to the player you're guarding, now your footwork is such that you're much quicker in recovering, okay? By having a slightly closed stance and by maintaining your positioning correctly, now you can start drifting a little more into a help position and having your positioning be help, because it's easier for you to recover and now guard your man. It's easier with that slightly closed stance. It's easier for you to not have to sell out in help, so that when the ball gets kicked out to the player that you're guarding, you don't have to miss a closeout and now they've got an easy shot, or you're not scrambling because now they give you a pump fake and they're right by you. That slight change of footwork where you have a slightly closed stance when you're in help will help you recover, along with the fact that you haven't let them get behind you. And now you can really excel in your primary responsibility of guarding the player that you're guarding while being available to engage as a helper with being there for your teammates. So that's your 3 things to focus on. They're really simple, but you can learn a lot from watching video of you playing defense. If you've got some video of you in a game, look at how is your positioning. Is your positioning a deterrent to the players you're not guarding? Is your help positioning a deterrent to maybe drives in the lane or coming your direction? Number 2, are you never losing track of the player that you're guarding because you're always maintaining at least an even line with them and not letting them get behind you when you have to help? Are you helping across? Or are you going up the line and that's allowing the player that you're guarding to get behind you? And then number 3, how's your footwork? Are you totally opening up and losing vision of the player that you're guarding in order to watch the ball and be available to help? Therefore, if you are, 1, you're probably not going to maintain a great line with them, but as well, you're going to not be able to recover very quickly because your footwork is such that you got to turn your entire body. Now find the player you're guarding, get out there, get in a stance, contest a shot, be ready for a drive. And by having that slightly closed stance, it makes it much easier to recover to your man and to guard your man. So that's your 3 tips to make you a more confident help defender. Again, just to review, let your positioning be your help. Number 2, never help up the line, help across so that you can maintain vision and maintain the ability to guard the player that you're guarding and they won't backdoor you and won't get behind you. And number 3, have a slightly closed stance so that it makes it easier to recover on the player that you're guarding even when you have to help. Now you can recover easier and get out and contest that shot and contest that drive. 3 simple tips. Hopefully that helps you be a better help defender and gets you in the game even more and helps you stay in the game even more. If you like this video, if you think there's anybody else that might benefit from seeing it, please forward it on. Always like the helps in the comments. Put a comment below if this is helpful, if this is going to help you be a better help defender. And until next week's chat, remember to play hard, play smart, and play together. See you next week.